You want to try to chop him up into 100 pieces and see. I
Will a
know
hundred of him
you
grow back out
you
of each
are
piece?
you are a monster,
I
Mr.
know.
Gonzalez. You are a
I
monster.
would I would probably go evil scientist. I probably would like let's chop off his head, leave it intact, and let's see if his body grows back a head, and if his head grows back a body, and we get two of them.
Hi there, and welcome to Hav and Charles Talk Comics, Season 2, Episode 4. Today, Hav and I will be talking about, and I've already blanked and it's written on the screen here, The Old Guard and Starman. Hav suggested I read a Starman arc from, actually, it's really a young comic for Javier. It was in the 90s. And I suggested he read The Old Guard, which is a much newer comic that I'm sure Hav will have the date on, but I forgot. Hi, Hav.
Yeah. Hey, Charles. How are you?
I'm great, man.
I no, I do have it. It's February of 2017. So yeah, holy
Very,
crap!
very
This
recent.
millennia.
Yeah, this millennia, and they already made a movie out of it on Netflix.
Yeah, they fast tracked the crap out of that.
Well, I don't know if you've heard, comic book movies are kind of big.
What?
Yeah, yeah. I know you don't realize that because all you've watched is your favorite movie, Dark Phoenix,
Over and over and over again.
and someday you might finish it.
Yeah, man, I tell you, it's just enthralling there. So much so that I just either nod off or just like, I'm gonna watch something else.
Whereas I just managed to watch it the one time all the way through, and I never have to put myself through that again.
Although you have said the last like hour or whatever,
45, the last 45 minutes shows that it could have been a mediocre movie if they had done better for the whole thing instead of what they did, which I can't even. I mean, mediocre doesn't even describe it. I don't know what they were trying for. I don't know how they ended up with that. I don't want to research it. I don't want to watch it again to try to figure it out. But I do remember when I watched it that it got better. And I mean, again, faint praise. It got better than it was as it got to the end. Now, also in fairness, I may have been drinking when I was watching it. I can't remember. So I also might have gotten enough alcohol in me to think it was a watchable movie.
That's fair.
Yes.
Sure. No, it just I've watched. I'm pretty sure I've watched all of it in like 5 or to 7 different tries. Like it's just on TV sometimes, and I'll put it on in the background. I'm like, oh, it's on. Let me. Oh, look, this is kind of where I left off last time. And then, sure enough, it's really easy for me to get distracted with that movie because it's for whatever reason, the X-Men movies, I liked a lot of them a lot, and then some of them just like, oh, what are y'all doing?
Not enough Cyclops.
Well, there's that. I mean, they killed Cyclops
Not quickly enough.
in that one, the last one of the original 3.
And
just
in
like right at
fairness,
the
it was
beginning.
just such a bad way to kill. I mean, the whole thing. But I guess it did stop him from marrying a woman that looked just like her not
Yeah.
long after she died at Wolverine's hands.
Yeah, there's that whole arc too, and from the comics, you're absolutely right. Just like, hey, Madeline Pryor looks just like your dead wife or dead girlfriend. I don't think they were ever married before
And
that.
if Fox had done that, they'd have just cast the same actress to do that, and then they did a multiverse Jean Grey, and she'd have been playing two parts. And actually, now I want him to do that.
Now it could. You see, now you're talking
MCU,
yourself
baby.
into it.
Yeah, I'm totally talking myself into it.
Okay, so let's go down this a little further. You tweeted or you forwarded something to me where they had Henry Cavill dressed up in a really bad CGI mock-up of Cyclops.
In fairness, I never looked at the CGI mockup. It didn't load when I did it. I just sent it
Okay.
to you to kind of just go. They're trying to, because I've been coming around. Admittedly, I've been coming around on Cyclops a little bit.
Yeah.
But then fans are trying to go, this is who we want in the MCU as Cyclops. And all I can think of is, no, and you pointed out to me that you like, which is fine. You can like him. That's fine. He's just never done anything for me. And yet he's this supposed I'm doing finger quotes so Hav can see, supposed giant movie star, and maybe he is. I'm not saying that. I just don't get it. Most of the time with a movie star, even if I don't like him, I get it. I do not get it with him.
Henry Cavill, you're speaking of.
Yeah,
Our most recent, big screen Superman.
Yes.
And I really liked Man from U.N.C.L.E. that they did with him and Armie Hammer.
I remember seeing the trailer for that, thinking I would like it, and then never saw it.
And he was really good in it. But you know what? Besides Superman in that movie, I've never seen The Witcher. I've heard people love that show on the Netflix.
I watched the first episode.
Ooh, that doesn't seem like a good thing.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't
Okay.
bad. I just I didn't get into it. I keep saying, hey, I'll go back to it, but I never played the game, so maybe I don't have the base for it. I'm not knocking it, but again, he doesn't do anything for me. So it's not like, okay, it can't be star driven if he's in it to me. I can't go, well, I just want to watch him
Because he's in it.
because he's in it. So that's not a selling point for me. And with what he did with Superman, I'm like, man, now granted, I know whose fault that is, but still.
Hey, look, I'm not getting on you for, hey, like we've talked about many times, your opinion, I get it. It's just, I'm not one to say, Mr. Feige, if you don't, I'm not one of those fans that they don't do, put my vision of how and who Cyclops should be on the big screen. I'm going to start a hashtag and a cult in protest. It's just, I will be interested to see how Feige and the powers that be at the MCU, Disney, get everybody from the X-Men community universe into the MCU. Because I trust them at this point. They've built up enough trust, I think, to let them do what they will with these properties and characters. But yeah, if it's him, okay, let's see.
I will say though, are you sure? Because I mean, they didn't do as great a job as you expected with your absolute all-time favorite comic run, The Eternals.
I thought they did a very good job with what they had for the 29th time. Oh, we just went down a long, winding road there. Speaking of Marvel properties, though, because you got me thinking of this, somebody just was tweeting on the comic book Twitter, and I don't remember who. Hey, I saw on Disney Plus that Inhumans, the TV show, is on there. Should I check it out? And it was pretty unanimous. The consensus on the feed was, not their best effort.
Oh God, should we watch that?
No.
Okay.
Have you watched it?
No, I have not. No.
It's one of those. It's the exception that makes the rule. Because guess what?
Well, you have to
not infallible.
You got to understand. Those are two different groups that were doing that. That were doing the TV and that were doing the movies. They weren't really as connected as everything else they've done. And secondly, the Inhumans are fucking stupid.
Oh my God! You just don't like Jack Kirby properties.
Did he come up with the? Oh look!
Yeah.
Oh dear Lord! Okay, well, evidently he's a great artist.
There's a lot of interplay between. I want to say there's a lot of themes and stuff in play or in common between Inhumans but hey, look,
X-Men, Inhumans,
and X-Men, but also the origins of the Inhumans goes back to, I think, some dabbling by some people back way when, because they're not mutants back in the original incarnation.
No, they are Kree. Yeah, so
Kree. There you go.
This is all back to Jack Kirby's fucked by an alien fetish. So it's the same thing with the Eternals.
That Chariots of the Gods thing was huge back then.
I know, and he got off on it.
Look, what he did in the privacy of his own home is unbeknownst to me, and I'm not one to speculate about such matters. But anyways, so hey, man, how you doing?
Pretty good. I'm thinking Rule 34 has something on the internet called "fucked by an alien."
Okay.
I mean, seriously, it has to exist. So, well, thank you, everyone, for listening to Hav and Charles Talk Comics. This has been a short one today. And, oh, wait, no, we haven't talked about the comic.
That was our podcast. We just blew it. Hey, since we're just going on, I did watch The Batman, to put this in some kind of time context for everybody. I just watched it. Was that last weekend?
Last Sunday.
Yeah.
A week from today, because this is the next Sunday. And it came out it came out that weekend, right? You went first weekend?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, spoiler free, I'm just going to say I give it a big thumbs up.
I have not watched it because, as everyone knows, I do not like Batman. Hav is
Maybe you just
nodding.
don't.
Dude,
Maybe
I like Batman.
maybe
Everybody
you just
likes
don't like
Batman.
stuff.
I like Batman. I like stuff. I like lots of stuff. I like your Flash shirt you're wearing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I like the fact in an amusing way that they're going to use Flashpoint to rewrite the schlock that Schneider did to the DC universe. And that's why it's taking so damn long to write it. They're looking at everything that's gone on and they're like, yeah, but what if we changed everything?
Did you watch Peacemaker?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Okay, it's been out for a fair amount of time, I think,
I
especially
re-
by the time this drops.
Yeah, I really
Did you like
liked
the
Peacemaker.
cameo at the end?
I did like the cameo again.
I
The
did too.
fish fucking thing cracked me up.
Oh, and the Twitter bros got all bent out of shape about that.
Really?
Some of them I saw, yeah,
Oh, well,
because
of course they did.
some people, although not Comicsgate or Snyderverse supporters, whatever, they can't help but comment on those folks' tweets when some people got so bent out of shape. Oh, what are you doing? Perpetuating the stereotype, and everybody's like, calm down.
Peacemaker
Junior,
is an asshole. I mean, good Lord. And I mean, Jesus. The Flash.
Well, but then Barry says something
I
too,
know.
like,
well, it's true. Isn't that what he said? It's true, isn't it?
yeah. Well, that's not what I heard, or something.
Yeah. No. 'Cause
So when last we left our heroes, and our heroes in this situation being me and you, Charles, I suggested reread Starman from way back last millennium, in the year 1994 is when this came out, Starman. And you suggested we read the first volume of Old Guard, which is something I don't know that I'd ever heard of, really. So it was cool to find something brand spanking new and shiny that I could dive into with no preconceptions or anything. So if we do what we usually do,
Yep.
we usually start with we're going to start with Starman, not to be confused with the Jeff Bridges, Karen Allen movie from the early 80s, Starman. But this is a comic book that goes back to the comic book character that actually, the original one goes back to the Golden Age. So right off the bat, let me just ask you, what'd you think?
So, Starman, that you made me read. So it's one of your picks. I really liked it. I mean, I really did. I really enjoyed that comic book.
Cool.
Yeah. It had a lot of themes, so we can talk about that, which I know one of our listeners will be very excited about. We have sorry, that was mean. It was a really nice updating of a Golden Age comic into the whatever the fuck the 90s were, because it was, I will say, although it was not as extreme, he did have the jacket when he updated the in case there are people that don't remember or people that haven't listened to it. If anyone's listening to this podcast, well, I mean, nobody's listening right now but Hav, since we're recording it right now. But in the future, when you're listening to this podcast, back in our very first episode of this podcast, we were discussing that neither one of us read during the 90s, or as Hav put it, and I put it, the extreme 90s, where everything was turned up and extreme. And Hav mentioned the jackets. And everybody had jackets. And then when we got to the second part of Black Hammer in episode 2, they did a extreme version of Abraham Slam from Black Hammer, and he had the extreme jacket. And in this, when I'm jumping ahead, when the new Starman starts to build his costume, he has a leather jacket with zippers on it.
Sure does. I mean, all he needed was all the pouches, like around his belt and around his thigh, and just random pouches. But it was a thing.
Oh yeah, and the welding goggles. He also had welding goggles, because precursor of steampunk.
I was gonna say, which I thought looks pretty darn cool, and I do. You know what?
You should absolutely wear that to the next time we go to a bar.
I'm gonna have them.
No, on your head.
up.
Yeah, you can't put them in your. They reside on your forehead until they're needed. And they're not needed in the bar, but you have to be ready.
Well, but did you notice that he gives a reason for it?
Of course, he gives a reason for it.
Because he's flying in the air in the high altitude, and he needs to protect the eyeballs.
In fairness, if you are flying, you do need to wear some sort of eye protection. I was not arguing with that. I'm just saying his choice of, I have these protective eyewear I wear when I'm woodworking that work quite fine. Now, they're not that cool as welding glasses.
Well, and the steampunk thing, look, it's not like our house is decorated in steampunk, or anything, but I'm not anti-steampunk.
Hav is not telling the truth here. His entire house, they just remodeled, and his entire house is steampunk. I'm afraid to go in there.
There's all sorts of sharp edges and pointy things sticking out of stuff. It's like an ocean nightmare in here. Like if you drop something on your foot, you could cut off some toes. Because unless you got steel-toed boots on, because otherwise something's coming off. So yeah, well, hey, I'm glad that you liked it. A little background, I guess, maybe is in order.
Sure. We could talk about it. Yes.
So this all starts with Golden Age character called, guess what, Starman, who is, so the new Starman is Jack Knight, eventually, that we read about a lot in this. Of course, it's his comic book, but his dad is Ted Knight, goes back to the Golden Age. And speaking of Golden Age, that comic book we read, that Starman was in Golden Age, and they give like an abbreviated origin, and I didn't do the research, Google, but I'm pretty sure that appearance in Golden Age predates this run and kind of spawned, or it, got people thinking, hey, let's do an update on Starman.
It was the original authors. It was the author of Golden Age did this, which was, I went into it because you mentioned when we read the Golden Age, when we did the podcast on that they had done a Starman arc, and because I kind of liked the Starman character in that. I did not like the original Starman character in this.
The brother or the dad?
The dad, the original Starman character. I did not care for him, but I don't think I was supposed to, because one of the themes of this is fathers and sons and brothers. It is a very family theme, and it was very well done for the 90s. No,
you can't help but put that caveat on it.
No, the whole comic holds up, other than the fact that it was written in the 90s. You can tell it was written in the 90s or drawn in the 90s, but I liked the art. They faked me out in the very beginning, because when it first starts out, all we see is the new Starman, and he's doing just a cop-out Batman shtick.
No, it's awesome, and he's using his dad's old. It's a Starman using the original Starman uni.
Oh, it looks awful. He's perched on a building, talking about how he likes causing pain to criminals, and I truly did not like him. And he just beat up some muggers or something, and he's up there doing the Batman pose on a building while monologuing, doing an internal monologue, and then he's killed.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is not something they hold back. This is the first issue, like first few pages. I'm like, I just sent you the screenshot. And my little title of the screenshot is "Titular Hero Dies in First Issue." Whoops.
I didn't read that. I've got them here, but I didn't read that because it was a brilliant fake out. Because I immediately started reading this and thinking, I'm not going to like this. And then they're like, ha ha ha, psych, he's dead. I'm like, okay. And then they had me. Legitimately, it was a great way to open this, because it completely went from a, what the fuck, I am not going to enjoy this comic book, to, holy fuck, I'm going to enjoy this comic book.
Yeah.
See, I do like,
job.
I do like dark things. This was a dark fucking comic book.
It was, but you know what? Like we've said before, you can do the dark balanced.
Not everything has to be dark. And you've pointed out I propose lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of dark things.
It's okay. So, the writer, real fast, since we mentioned the same writer as Golden Age, James Robinson. I don't remember who the artist was, but the artist is Tony Harris in this. And I don't know if it's
you don't remember who the artist is, but then you named the artist. Do you mean you did the Golden Age? You don't remember the Golden Age? Okay,
correct. Correct.
Sorry.
And the other thing I wanted, speaking of the art, there are some beautiful painted covers on this on this run that I don't know if you got to see at the end of the collection we read, that are just gorgeous. That I think, at least to me, and this is how I operate, if I saw that cover on a stand, I'm like, I want to check this out, because they are downright beautiful. So there's that. So
it's almost like that's the point of the cover,
right? To try to get you to maybe pick it up or something. Yeah. So yeah, Starman at the beginning is David Knight, who summarily gets shot and killed in issue 1 in like the first few pages, and then his younger brother Jack Knight has to take up the mantle
Well,
and goes a completely different
then
visual way
but
with
he
it.
doesn't have to take it. This is also the fight of what's your destiny. So there's another theme of you were destined for something that you're refusing to do,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
only real in comic books because none of us are destined to do anything. But
Yeah.
not only did they kill him, they attempted to kill Jack.
Yes. And
So,
his dad.
well, and his dad, except no, they purposely weren't trying to kill his dad.
Right. We find out the bad
we
guy.
find out, yeah. So there is an attack on all three of them. They end up burning down all it's his observatory where he does all of his scientific experiments and gets him to the hospital. Jack is, I believe, shot or gets away before he's shot, and they're trying to kill him. And then there's obviously a bad guy involved in this, and I'm sure Hav's going to spoil it. So it's just one of his old enemies and his two kids.
Yeah, they reveal it pretty early on.
Yeah,
in the
well, you have
arc.
to. You have to go. What the fuck? What the fuck's going on?
Well, because this nemesis, I don't know if it's an arch nemesis. I don't know the history of Starman that well. Is the Mist?
He thinks he's his arch nemesis. Clearly, he thinks that they are the Batman and Joker. Yeah, we don't know if Starman does.
Yeah. So, and the Mist can't help himself. He calls Ted Knight in the hospital to announce his presence with authority.
Yes.
And says, "Hey,
and telling me I killed both your sons."
Yeah, and I'm going to make you suffer, and this is my thing now. And classic, superhero bad guy stuff where he can't help but say, "Hey, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm doing. Here's who I am, and
Right.
you can't do anything about it."
We're gonna monologue.
Yeah. And then it's you get to see Jack. Oh, the interaction between Jack and his dad. You find out one of the issues that the dad has with Jack is that Jack reminds him so much of Jack's mom, his dad's wife, obviously, dead mom, and that's they're alike in so many ways. The mom was big into history. There's a huge history section wing of a museum that his mom endowed or something, or helped found that is also part of the
her
attack.
endowment. It's named after her. It's the catalyst for him becoming Starman, sort of, because what the Mist tells him is first he's killed his son. He's killed his sons. He's going to wipe out his wife's legacy and destroy her in his mind. And then finally, once he's taken everything from him, he's going to kill him.
Right.
And Starman sends Jack away. He says, "You have to get out of town. You cannot stay here." Now, and we also have to talk about Jack is a junk dealer. I'm sorry. It's not even a junk dealer. He's
Antiques. Retro stuff.
kitschy stuff is his thing. Old vinyl. His leather jacket is a kitschy old school. Well, now it would be old school because it's an extreme 90s jacket. But
Comic books.
he loves comic books. Old Playboy magazines. But I mean, who doesn't love those?
Right. I know. Oh yeah.
Because the articles are amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's one scene I think I did send it where his dad says, "Hey, go here." Does he go there to get the? Because they're losing cosmic rods like hotcakes. By the way,
Yes,
they were getting broken.
He sends him. He asked him if he had the files he gave him, and he said, "Yes, I kept those like you asked." He said, "Well, in that is a cosmic rod and something else, a magic belt of some sort."
Right.
So he goes, and it's in order to protect him. He says, "Go get those and then get out of town." And when he goes, that's when he runs into another killer, or the same killer, the son of the Mist, who, again, attempts to kill him and fails.
Whose name is Kyle, by the way. Kyle, the bad guy.
Okay.
Just so you know. I just thought that was funny. He didn't have like a superhero bad name like Miss Junior or something. He was just Kyle.
They lived in suburbia. We talked about that. It's like the whole Red Skull and his family living in suburbia. It's the Mist that he took some time out to raise his kids.
Right.
Sure, he raised them evil, but what you gonna do?
So there's that part, and then there's also the part where the dad sends him to a massive storage unit type thing or warehouse where his dad's collected all this old stuff in Jackson's in heaven.
Yes.
Because it's after Jack's shop gets blown to bits when he's attacked.
Yeah.
And he's like, now I got to find new junk to sell. So there's that whole thing. So yeah, what else? Oh, the Mist. Oh, so there's two kids for the Mist. There's Kyle, the son, and the daughter, who's got a stutter, is Nash,
So it's
and
Kyle and Nash. So Nash gets a fairly cool name, but
Kyle
Kyle. But
and
in
Nash.
fairness, in
Okay.
fairness, you don't need a cool name because of what happens to Kyle.
Yeah, and I took a screenshot of that. That might leave a mark. Uh,
Yeah.
but earlier on, before the big showdown, eventually there's a big showdown between Kyle because
Yes.
Kyle steals the cosmic belt and starts evil doing with the cosmic belt.
Yeah, they're doing a lot. They're doing a lot of things across the city. They're just a massive crime spree, just destroying the city, turning it into, as another character that we're going to meet calls, Gotham. They're making Opal City more like Gotham.
No, they made a point of saying that under the protection of Starman all these years, as opposed, and they rattle off some cities like Gotham, Keystone, and maybe one more. This one is relatively safe and like a good place to raise a family because
Because
it's
of Starman.
relatively because of Starman. It's relatively crime free. So that
Well,
was kind of cool.
I did have, I don't know if you mentioned remembered in the beginning during the pontification internal monologue, it was talking about the founding of Opal City, how the founder of Opal City took the gem fortune he made in Africa and brought it to make this wondrous modern city in America. And I'm sitting there going, this gem miner, okay, we
Like blood
blood
diamonds.
diamonds, and
Yeah.
there are no good guys doing that, by the way. So this city is built on from money made from just horrible awfulness. I mean,
Shh. Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa! It's Shay.
Elon
Don't worry about it.
Elon Musk level horror. Oh yes, you do know he's a
Oh yeah.
yeah, okay. Yeah,
No,
that's
that
where
that
he comes
drives
from.
that drives me crazy when these people that are his huge whatever fanboys and girls that he bootstraps and came from nothing. It's like no, he comes from blood diamond money and was independently wealthy when he was a kid.
He's a supervillain. His brother is a billionaire. You don't get two brothers that are billionaires that both bootstrapped themselves up. Why
Right.
they only started with hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, it's like calling the kids of the Walton guy that started Walmart like, they're just salt of the earth people. They may still live in Arkansas, but they ain't like you and me.
Oh my
So,
lord. Elon Musk is a supervillain.
well, he does like to put weird stuff into space for some reason, like a car for no reason.
I
Now,
was
at least it
talking
doesn't have like
yeah.
bombs on it.
I was talking to my dad. He wants to buy not a Tesla. He wants to buy he's thinking about getting a hybrid because he needs a new car. And he was asking me about subsidies, and I told him I literally don't know if there are subsidies on hybrids, but there are some on electric cars. And that it went me down the path of talking about Elon Musk. And recently, Elon Musk said that we need to get rid of subsidies for electric cars. That he thinks we've reached a point where they don't matter. We should get rid of subsidies. We shouldn't give money to people. And as was pointed out online, the reason he feels that way is they're based on a certain number. And when a manufacturer reaches that number of produced, the subsidy goes away. There are no subsidies left on Teslas. So
Right.
he doesn't want other people coming into the market and getting a boost because people will buy those cars. So
It's a profit thing, Charles.
I understand that. I just want to be perfectly clear who we're dealing with here. Anyway, sorry.
Okay. So yeah. So
That
Opal
was our
City.
way too long moment of politics brought to you by the public library. The public library. Elon Musk would shut it down. No, wait.
He doesn't like free stuff. You should pay for your books. What else is going on here? So, we get to meet the family of the cop, the offspring, the kids of the cop that the original Starman saved, because he's in the hospital and he is guarded by a crew of Opal City police officers that are all siblings. The daughter is Hope O'Dare, and it's the O'Dare brothers. Her and her two or three brothers are there because they have like a blood oath passed down to them from their dad.
They've promised their dad that they will not let anything happen to Starman. So evidently, in this area, everybody knows who Starman is.
Yeah.
No secret identity. it was Ted Knight, then it was David Knight, and as soon as Jack shoves that pole up his ass, he is Starman too, and everybody knows it.
I don't think that's how he got to be Starman,
That's
but
not
no,
how you get the power? Okay.
No, in fact, he just holds it in his hand. But also, something interesting.
He holds that big
Phallic
rod,
thing.
and it makes him feel powerful.
It does. And he has to get a bigger one, remember?
Yes,
'Cause
that's
the one,
right.
The
He
one is
can't-
smaller.
Yes.
It's like a baton.
Yes,
And then he
well,
gets
he
the
loses
full,
the little one, and then he demands a larger, more powerful wand because it's
But they're
all
not-
about the size. They're sending
That's
us.
not what, that's not what I heard.
There are lots of themes in this. How inadequate? Anyway,
The Knight family, not powered, by the way. I mean, yes, the dad is a super scientist and harnesses cosmic energy somehow to make the cosmic rod and belt, or cosmic rods and belt, but they're not to the point where, yeah, when David is internal monologuing at the beginning of this arc, he's just sitting up there and gets shot through the chest by an assassin.
and
who
you're
we later
to blame, baby. Oh wait,
Was that Kyle that shot him? I forget. Was it Kyle or Nash that shot him?
I think it was Kyle.
Yeah. Well, and then also, just not real fast, we're not rushing, but Nash, the sister, has a tussle with Jack when he's taking on her, and she pins him down and has him cornered, and she decides to let him go.
He
'Cause
talks her
otherwise,
out of it.
Yeah, story over right there.
Yeah.
And she sees reason and is like, why am I
Well,
killing?
actually, it's story development there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, 'cause-
it was huge story developing because she doesn't kill him. She could have ended it, and then he puts down her brother like a dog.
Yeah, it's a great panel where he just
In-
shoves the rod right into his chest and vaporizes him, essentially.
And that's how I know he killed his brother. Because when that does happen,
That's
he's
right.
taunting him. I killed your brother, and I'm going to kill you. And he says you didn't, because they're talking. You didn't even like your brother, and that's where you got that scene where he's killing him, and he says I didn't like my brother. I loved him, but I
and
loved him.
there's a nice flashbacks about him and his brother growing up, and just like any
Yeah.
siblings,
There was good and bad.
Yeah.
He's
And
the
it's
younger.
sweet.
He's the younger brother, and as you and I both know, the younger brother is always the whiniest little bitchy one, right?
Exactly. Exactly. My brother's never going to listen to this podcast.
My brother is.
I know. So, sorry, Patrick.
Your brother doesn't like comic books?
He read them a little bit. I think I mentioned to him I was doing the podcast. I don't know that I have. He's down in Austin. We talk not as frequently probably as I'd like, but yeah, he used to. I know when he was getting into them, 4 years younger than me, he was more into the Transformers, G.I. Joe, got into some Avengers, but then that wasn't. He was more. He got into sports cards, like heavy.
Okay.
Like, trading sport, basketball, baseball, which was interesting. Not my thing, but yeah, no, he did read some.
I was trying to come up with something dumb that Patrick got into, but I couldn't come up with something. I was going, oh yeah, Patrick got into it, but I had nothing.
Yeah. So eventually,
Pogs was what I was going to think of. Now Patrick,
Pogs.
that's not
Did he?
true. No,
Okay.
no, he's not that young. I mean, Pogs,
Beanie Babies.
No, he didn't get into. He didn't have any kind of weird hobby.
That'd be great.
That would have been. I wish I'd have come up with Beanie Babies. That would have been. Patrick got huge into Beanie Babies. We got an entire room at my parents' house that's just full of his Beanie Babies. They're
go.
going to be worth something someday, Mom. No, again, Patrick didn't have any weird hobbies then.
Ooh.
Oh, he doesn't have a weird hobby now.
Okay.
I can't.
to say.
He'll cut off our website if I say anything mean about him,
That's true.
or he'll write my biography.
Your bio. Oh, that'd be
I'm
great.
surprised he hasn't.
That'd be awesome.
I did
So-
come up with one, and I was going to. I just have to write it down. It's in my head. I just have to write it and send it to him.
You should do that.
Yeah, and I'm going to rewrite yours.
Oh, okay, sure. Why not? We also meet the other bad,
Not
big
to your
bad in
benefit.
this.
I'm going to rewrite it
I-
not to your benefit. Oh, okay, that was assumed. Okay.
I figured. That's why I was like, you know what? I don't care. Go ahead. I think hopefully most people will know it's not factually accurate when it's rewritten. Well, so we eventually do meet the other big bad in this, which is the Shade, which I so dig his look and his attitude, and he's ancient. He's doesn't age.
Yeah.
But you also get to see his interaction with the Mist, which you also come to find out maybe is a little bit dawdling and maybe doesn't remember stuff quite so well. And at the end, when they're taking him away, I know I'm fast forwarding, but well, let me talk about the interaction between the Mist and the Shade. The Mist is talking to him about how he got back in '72 he killed Wildcat with so and the Mist is like, actually that was the Invisible Hood. It was '74, and that
No.
wasn't me that helped you kill him. It was Icicle.
Well, no, you got it. You got it twisted. The
What?
Mist is saying that he killed Wildcat.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yes.
So
the Mist.
the Shade is telling him, no, that's incorrect. It wasn't
You're
me.
right.
You didn't kill Wildcat. Wildcat is still alive. And talking about because the Mist is aged and the Shade hasn't.
Correct.
Because
I'm sorry
the
if I
Shade
flipped those.
because the Shade doesn't age. So we have the Mist because he says that to him. I don't age. So he is one of these immortal type weirdos. So his evil is different. He's not a good guy, but he's also not this just I'm going to burn everything to the ground, and he doesn't like what the Mist is doing.
It's almost like he's just more having fun. Like
That's
he's
exactly
bored.
what it is. He is well, if you live forever, you get bored.
And did you watch, probably not for our demographic, Stargirl on the CW?
Yes.
Okay, me too. The Mist in that, very comic book accurate from this run, I think. The actor, the
In
approach.
was that is that season 2 when
think
he
so.
shows up? Yeah, because I only watched a couple episodes. I'm waiting for it to hit HBO Max to
Gotcha.
watch it all because I watched the first couple episodes, I think, of the second season.
It's just fun. I know it's
It was a lot of fun. That first season was a lot of fun, and I may
I
go
know
back
it's
and
high
watch it again.
schoolers, it's high school set, but it's different than some other stuff where when I try to watch it, I'm like, yeah, this is just too juvenile and soap opera-y for me.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun, but
Well,
I
it's
just
the whole point of it is to have fun with some of these. Again, on their TV version where they do have kind of an overarching person that knows how story works in a real way, Berlanti, they have a whole lot more fun in these shows at times, and they can have different themes throughout them without it being this overarching thing of everything's awful always.
right. And in the show, it is a legacy too. It's because she gets the rod passed down from somebody else, which eventually happens in the comic books. It's my understanding. I read
Yes.
some of this run back when it came out.
I was going to say it happened a while back. It's
Yeah, so now it's Stargirl in the comics, right? So, but yeah, the Shade I just thought is a cool bad guy, kind of bad guy, because then at the end you have this weird interaction meeting between the Shade and Jack, where the Shade is like, "Hey, I'm going to give you some of my journals to read about the history of Opal City dating back to like the 1800s, and I'm going to in exchange, I'm going to what was the exchange? I'm going to help you out. I forget what that whole was about. Where Jack's like, "Yeah, okay, sure." I'll read your journals. I thought that was neat. I don't know.
yeah. I did not do it yet, but I am planning to read a little more of this because I really did enjoy this run, this beginning arc that we read.
Go ahead.
Everything. It really did a good job with fathers and sons and brothers and family with the O'Dares. I liked that, and we get. I talked about it when he murders the brother. They arrest the sister Nash, and she sees him and she is livid because she let him live and he killed her and he's going to regret it. So that's why she has a better name than Kyle, because
Kyle, I
didn't-
think of South Park. Go ahead.
yeah, well, Kyle was not there for long enough to matter, and Nash needed a name that would work better.
Well, and early on in the arc, she's got I'm not going to say debilitating stutter, but a pretty bad stutter. And when she's arrested, that stutter is gone, and she is a different, more evil person. And now you get that set up amongst many things in this arc. Speaking of building different things, in this early 6 issues, they are setting up all sorts of stuff here. One of the things that we haven't touched on, he wanders into that new shop that's not a new shop that's on his block where there's this freaky deaky. In fact, I labeled it, she's freaky deaky.
She
Uh,
is.
There's a cool full page splash page where she's some kind of seer of things, and that's all you see of her. And I don't even remember if we get her name If we do, I didn't write it down. But there's going to be more of her for sure.
Oh, I would hope so.
And of course, I would hope you're going to see more of the O'Dares.
Oh, you have
the
to,
cop
because
family.
he's gonna be dating the
Hope.
female there. Yeah, Hope.
Yeah, hope.
Obviously.
Uh,
I mean, come on. Have you not
or
ever
the-
read a comic book before?
or there's a love triangle with the freaky deaky shop owner.
Oh, I was
maybe?
thinking a love triangle with the Spectre, or what was his name?
The Shade.
The Shade.
Or that. Yeah. And speaking of setting stuff up, gosh, they set up so much. The Hawaiian shirt thing at the end,
Oh yeah, that was just weird.
right?
I
was
kind
getting
of
like
like that. I forgot about that, but yeah, that was just kind of a throw in. Hey, why is this part of this arc? But whatever.
Yeah. Well, it made me think of, not for some reason, that made me think, because it's so off the wall, it made me think of Doom Patrol. Like just kind of a weird Hawaiian shirt that's a portal to
To heaven.
heaven?
It's a portal to
Yeah.
heaven. Yeah, they said that this billionaire is looking for it because this Hawaiian shirt artist made it and then disappeared, and it's floated around all the world, and it turns out, and he sends his guy to go get it, and he breaks into Starman's shop because that's where it is. And he pulls a gun on him, and he's like, "I'm going to give this to you. Don't make me kill you." And he says, "What is it?" And he tells him, he's like, "Well, I'll sell it to you."
Yeah, that's great.
I-
Diffuse the situation.
He's like, "You will?" Yeah. It's a curio shop. I think that's the word we're looking for.
Yeah.
Curio shop. I will. I can. It's what we do. You're a procurer. He wants to buy it. Let's make a deal. And then the billionaire disappears because he stepped into it and went to heaven, I guess.
Something.
Yeah.
Which again gives you.
That's probably going to come back. I mean,
would-
there's
I
got to
would-
be more to that, or it was just really weird. I mean, if that's it, it's like, okay, cool. Which
No,
it was.
I-
I didn't dislike it, but I would expect more from that at some point.
No, I think that's definitely setting up something in the future. Then you also see at the end, well, and let me back up just a little bit. So you get the whole beginning of the hero's journey, where Jack's reluctant hero, not going to be a hero. In fact, then him and his dad have a good heart to heart, where his dad says, "Look, it's not that I don't like you; it's just you remind me too much of your mom."
And I hated
that kind
her.
of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah,
No.
of course. No, and so Jack takes up the mantle. You get the big fight with the son of Mist, but then you see all these other Starmen in some form of captivity. The two other ones. You remember that part?
Yes.
Which again setting up something. You get, I don't even remember their names or if I wrote them down. There's a guy in like a dungeon, and then there's
his name was Starman.
yeah, they're just Starmen, I think.
No, they did have names, but yeah, they had completely names. But and I am also Starman, and I am. Isn't that what
Yeah.
they said? I am also Starman, or I
There's
am
one that's
Starman?
Will Payton is one of them. I wrote down that name.
Okay.
And the other one, I don't know that they gave a name.
Yeah. So something's going on in the multiverse, I would guess, if I had to
Maybe,
guess.
or there other cosmic rods out there? Because there have been prior and other Starmen. In fact, from the TV show, I want to say the Starman predecessor in that, in the comics, kind of the analog, or not, or where they borrow that from, was actually the Star Spangled Kid, and had the cosmic belt. Okay, but that's a bunny trail, because I did look into that a little bit. Anyways, what else did they set up? Oh, the end where he's in the cemetery, and guess who's there? Jack is his dead brother.
Yes, he has a meeting with his dead brother, and they fight, and they talk, and they share stories, and it's very weird.
It is weird, and there's one point where
And-
Jack kills him.
Yes, Jack, and then goes, "Not again." It's like, okay, and then then his brother promises to meet him once a year on this date.
Yeah, which is a weird. I don't know. Yeah, dead brother visiting you once, not necessarily in that cemetery. He makes clear.
Yes,
Maybe
no,
pick
it
a-
won't be
pick a-
there. No, they're going to pick somewhere else.
Yeah.
He wasn't really happy about being in the cemetery.
Which
So-
I thought was just weird and cool and fun
Yes,
in a weird, dark way. But
I actually enjoyed it. It was, like I said, I liked this comic book quite a bit. It was really well done. The only thing is just a dated thing, and that was the extreme costume. I mean, that was literally Because the fun part about that to me, on top of that, is how well it did. It aged as poorly as Golden Age costumes because he was talking about how ridiculous the costumes were back then. And then he pulls this crap, which is the same crap that everyone in comics was doing. And I don't know if that was... I almost think that was the writer and the artist having a good time on what was going on. Legitimately of, okay, we're going to make fun of the current costumes.
Sure.
I'm going to give them credit for that because as well as this thing, because I hadn't thought about that when I was reading it, but as well as this comic was, as good a job as they did with this comic, I could see that just being another, let's do this. Let's make fun of the Golden Age while we also make fun of what's going on right now. Because some of the classic costumes are awesome.
Hey, who doesn't wear their underwear on the outside of their pants every once in a while?
Please don't stand up and show me that.
Well, okay, I won't. I'm trying to think if there's any. I'm glad. Hey, let me just say this. I'm going to chalk this one up for me. I'm glad you liked it.
I will. Yes, chalk that up for me. You.
Yeah. And I'm
2 out of 4 ain't bad.
I'm glad that
I have no idea. I don't really remember. I know I liked the first thing you suggested, and I liked this, and no one liked what you did last episode, and I can't remember episode 2.
Well, you did Powers, and I did Battle Pope to start.
Yes.
I know that.
Yes.
And then Short-Term Memory.
Yeah, I can't remember season 2. Episode 2 of season 2.
That wasn't She-Hulk. The She-Hulk we just did. Oh, Cosmic Odyssey and Spider-Woman.
Oh, I liked Cosmic Odyssey. So you're doing all right.
Yeah. No, well, I think it does a really good job also of putting enough out there to make you want to read more because they put out the little, hey, there's this going on, the Hawaiian shirt.
Oh, wait, no, I didn't like Cosmic Odyssey. I had mixed feelings. There were some things it had some good points. Sorry. I digress. I digress.
So, as long as, again, you didn't like Kree Skrull War.
Nobody did. I'm sorry. No one on the podcast did.
Oh, yeah, because has that even dropped yet?
No, it hasn't dropped. No, the only one that's dropped so far is the very first episode.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, this is the Sunday before the Friday that episode 2 will come out. We're recording this, and I have not edited it at all.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah. So there's a little Starman for you.
Yeah. Well, we'd like to thank y'all for listening to half of this podcast so far, and encourage you to contact us on Hav and Charles Talk Comics at gmail.com. Hav and Charles Talk Comics at gmail.com. It is a fully functional email address. I know this because Hav and Patrick have sent me emails there. You should try it too.
And then Charles's Twitter handle is at HerringRealRed. And then,
sure, in some sort of order. Just put it.
Wait, did I do it wrong? Was that wrong?
Oh my Lord, yes. Yeah.
Oh my God, sorry.
Herring Red Reel.
Gosh darn it. All right, that's the last time I tried to do that. And then mine's Havgonzo tweets.
Yes. And then the JNC Talk Comics. No, JC. What is the Twitter? Oh, son of a
JNC
Talk Comics.
JNC Talk Comics. Yeah.
Okay, is it? Okay.
Spelled out. The and is spelled out. No ampersand or anything.
Yeah. They don't let you ampersand in a Twitter handle.
Speaking of Shade being immortal.
Yes.
There's this comic book that you suggested we read this go round called The Old Guard, which
they're not immortal.
Which they're not immortal, but they sure do live more than the average bear.
They do. They come back to life until they don't.
Yeah.
You find that out. It is a rip-roaring adventure story with semi-immortal warriors. Almost unkillable warriors.
Yeah.
And I quite enjoyed this when I read it the first time. Full disclosure, I read it the first time because they made a movie on Netflix, and I read about the movie going to be made that was coming out. I found out when it was about to hit Netflix, and I decided I needed to read the comic first because I didn't want to watch a movie and then read the comic.
And they had some heavy hitters that starred in this thing. The Netflix movie was the big name being Charlize Theron,
and she was great.
And then I always mispronounce his name. He's the dude that played the bad guy in Serenity, amongst many other great roles. 12 Years a Slave. He was the black dude, the black sorcerer
Mm-hmm.
dude in Doctor Strange. Chiwetel Ejiofor. I'm butchering his name. He's in it too. So, and he's a darn good actor.
Yes,
They
he
all,
is. It
uh,
Netflix did a great job.
okay,
I
good to
liked it.
know. I have not seen it.
I enjoyed the movie. I but let's Tav hasn't seen it yet. I'm going to mention something here in a little while about the movie, so remind me. But let's talk about the comic first.
Okay.
The whole premise of this is that there are some people, and they all tend to be warriors throughout time, and not a lot of them. There's like 4 or 5 of them at a time. Are almost impossible to kill. The first one we're introduced to is also the oldest, and she's their leader, and her name is
Andy. I'm not going to try to say her full name.
Andromaca.
Okay, Andromeda.
I think that was it. I think that was it. But she goes by Andy. So Andy is, we come to find out, 6,000 years old at this point. I mean, she's lasted longer than anybody because she was the first of the group. Ran and met somebody else because evidently when one arises, i.e., dies for the first time, everyone there starts dreaming about them, and they dream about them until they meet. So
Right.
they end up getting together. So she has she talks about in flashbacks the people that she did with, like her best friend, because first it was just her and some guys, and it's the wars she fought in, Mongols, all sorts of things, over and over and over. It reminded me a lot of, I was talking about when we talked about powers, how we find out later that Walker has lived forever, and he keeps forgetting things, and he has fought, I mean, and there's an arc of that where he's fighting in this war, he's a conqueror here, he's just a soldier here, and just on and on and on. And that's what she's doing. And she talks about the way they died. Each one, this died doing this died doing that. And just eventually your body just stops saving you. And you're dead.
There's one where, if this is in this arc, there's one where one of them falls into the ocean and just never comes back.
Yes.
One of her
That's her.
old
Yeah, that was
compatriots.
there. Yeah.
And then it was another one. I think that was a female.
Yes, that was her best
immortal.
friend. That was her best friend.
friend.
That's when she met her, things got better because she had a female friend.
Or semi-immortal. I don't know what we're going to
Well,
talk
yeah,
about.
we can go with immortal. It's hard to. There's not really a.
Yeah.
There's just a point where they point out that we're not immortal. We're just not dead yet.
And then the other one, who I didn't write down the name of the friend that falls in the ocean, doesn't come back. But then there's the other one, Lycan, is how I was saying it.
Yeah, she's not important. The one that falls in the ocean and never comes back isn't important.
Well, then he gets, in some way back when thing. Yeah, I know. Gets stabbed, and she mentions a look of relief on his face when he realizes
that
he ain't getting better.
Yeah. He's actually going to die because it's awful. I mean, after a while, and especially because all they do is kill people. So we kind of, I mean, all they do is fight. They are a special ops team. They talk about during it that you can't stay in one place too long because after a while, hey, you look good for your age. Wow, it's good to see you turns into fear and goes into something else. So they have to move on. The problem is the world has changed so much that now there's records. Now people can remember beyond their lifetime. And they have to keep moving, and we have technology, and that kind of is what opens with this is they get a job. And Andy doesn't want to take the job because they've worked for this person before, and she says, we too much, we can't, they'll figure things out. And they end up going, the person that hires them, talks them into it by saying this group of terrorists has kidnapped these girls, and they're holding them in one place, and we have to get to them quick or they're going to sell them. So she agrees to do it. And when they get there, it's just an empty room, and then group bursts in and riddles them with automatic weapons fire, and they fall to the ground. The bad guys are out of bullets, and then they get up and say, now it's our turn, and then they kill them. And that all seems wonderful until they notice at the end of it that there is a camera there
Recording everything,
and uploading it to the interwebs.
and it's a trap
Yes.
to out them. No, that's all the first issue, the first half of the first issue, which is
Yes.
a great intro to this world. And I just liked, given my tendency to want to spoil stuff, I just like
Go
the
for it.
first page. No, the first page, because there's little quotes at the beginning of every issue, but this one has just thing at the very beginning that just lays out what the story's about, which I thought was great. It says, "This is a fairy tale of blood and bullets. It is a story of 2 women and 3 men who cannot die, mostly. Their names are Andy, Nikki, Joe, Booker, and Niall. It is a story about time and age and ages, and about friendship and love and regret." And it's just a great little, right there, I was like, okay, this should be cool. Let's do this thing. And then, that first issue, you get them getting videotaped, and now they got to try to fix it.
I screenshot that too. I loved that as well.
Yeah,
It is a wonderful opening.
Oh, written by Greg Rucka, who has written a lot of stuff that I'm blanking on right now. And then the art is by an artist that I don't know that I've heard his name or seen his name before, Leandro Fernandez. Really cool art.
Very, very cool art. I liked the art. It worked really well for this.
Yeah. So they're set up by this ex-CIA guy, Copley, who used to work for the company, the CIA, but who is now working for, and the screenshot I named the douchebag, the billionaire douchebag, speaking of billionaires,
Oh, yeah.
that wants
yeah.
the secret to immortality
Yeah,
or
he
semi-immortality.
He wants to live forever.
So he figures the best way to do that is to capture some of them and do some testing.
That is a good thing. Well, Copley brought it to him because he also, I think, wants the secret to immortality.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
So there's a whole thing where 2 of them, not Booker, it is Nikki and Joe get taken.
Well, we're leaving something out.
Oh, then, we're leaving out.
We're
them finding-
leaving out the introduction to a new
Yep,
semi-immortal.
Yep.
And it takes place in Afghanistan. Is it Afghanistan or Iraq? Can't remember.
Afghanistan. I think it's Afghanistan.
I think it's Afghanistan. Okay. So a translator for a U.S. young woman named something Freeman, Niall Freeman, is killed and comes back to life. And I mean, she's just cut. Her throat is just sliced open. And she's come back to life, and it surprises the heck out of him because the medics are like, I don't know why y'all were still so worried about it. She's right over there. And her friend's like, she bled to death in my arms. Something's going on. So they have to go find her because they all dream about her. And Andy finds her, somehow gets her out in the desert, and proves what's going on by killing her.
Over and over
And it's just
over again.
It's quicker this way.
Yeah, she's like, I don't have time for this shit.
Yeah.
You need to figure this out.
Things are going on. And then they go to the safe house where the other 3 are because they're trying to hide. And the 2 you mentioned have been kidnapped, and Booker is dead, except he's not. I mean, his head is blown apart.
Off. The top half of his head is blown off.
It is just missing.
And I sent you that screenshot because it's only a flesh wound.
Yeah.
Because, it is. If that doesn't kill them, pretty much nothing will, until they're ready to die. So then sure enough, Booker gets better. It doesn't take too long for getting his head blown off for him to get better. He just starts growing back. It's a wicked cool healing factor thing they got going on.
Andy said the first time it takes longer, but after that it's pretty quick. If you're going to regenerate it happens pretty quick. So now they have to go find their compatriots.
Yeah, Joe and Nikki.
Joe and Nikki are together, and they've got them in a van with a bunch of the thugs that took them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is where we find out that they're a couple. Well, I think we found out before that, but they're a couple. They're a couple, and the douchebags that took them make a comment about it. And do you have a screenshot of the speech? Because it is one of the...
It's very well done, very well written.
I thought I had saved it, but I don't think I did, which is a shame because I loved it the first time I read it. I loved it this time, and they did it in the movie, and it is amazing. Oh, here it is. I did.
Okay.
Because he said, "What is that?" One of the guys says after they hit him, and he says something. He says, "What is he? Your boyfriend?" And his response is, "You are a child, an infant, and your mocking is thus infantile. That man is not my boyfriend. That man is more to me than you can dream in your simpering, pathetic life. The man is the stars in my sky and the sun that lights my days. The man is the moon when I am lost in darkness and warmth when I shiver in cold. I love the man beyond measure and reason. His kiss still thrills me, even after a millennium, since I first tasted him. His body to this day awakens a passion you will never know. His heart overflows with a kindness of which this world is not worthy, and his very thoughts make music of the mundane. He is not my boyfriend. He is not my lover, nor is he my partner. He is all and more. He is my everything." And that was fucking brilliant. And
It
then
was.
they kiss in front of these, his everything replies, you incurable romantic. They kiss, and then the next scene is the back door of the fucking van opening up, and they're the only two left alive, and they're still fucking bound.
Yeah.
One
of them says something like, "You'd have thought one of these guys would have had the keys on these chains we are in."
That's
Because
right.
they're so bound up. They killed them with their hands tied behind their backs. All of them.
Well, if you can't be killed, you got time to. I mean, just brilliant. But that right there really hit me. I was like, that's awesome. And they do that scene in the movie, which is great. You find out that the two of them didn't have to dream about each other because they were on two sides of a crusade,
Right.
and they kept killing each other over and over and over again.
Yeah.
That's the most fucked up meet cute of all time.
Yeah. And then they eventually figure out that they dig each other.
Yes. And that they can't die.
Yeah. On top of everything else.
Yes.
So they take him to the douchebag billionaire's headquarters, and then you meet douchebag billionaire's scientist that's going to do the experiments on them, and that guy's just a little weasel.
Yes. And he continuously beats one of them to death over and over and over again just to see how it goes, and gets off on it. I mean, literally got off on it. I mean, that was creepy as hell.
Yeah, there's not a lot of redeeming qualities for the big bad billionaire douchebag in this.
Well, he didn't need any redeeming qualities.
No, he really didn't. I'm trying to think what else. You get the cool backstory with Andy and the guy she meets back, I want to say, late 1800s.
Yeah, that was...
And it's just so sad.
Early 1800s? I'd say it was more early 1800s.
Okay. Well, shoot.
Hold on, I'm trying to think. It's probably late 1800s. You're
Where
right.
They
You're right.
they
I'm
eventually
trying to-
settle down together.
Yeah, they do. And she doesn't age, and he ages. And it was a beautiful little story. Everything, there's so much just wonderfulness in this.
Speaking of wonderfulness, there's also a lot of sadness because
Yes.
Niall is realizing, coming to grips with her new whatever
Yes.
situation.
What her life is
And-
going to be like.
And Andy and Booker are like, "Hey, by the way, don't call your friends, don't call your family." And Andy tells her to talk to Booker about that.
Yes.
And eventually you find out the sad end of Booker's relationship with his family. And then also she's got a photo of her family, and Andy's tells her in no uncertain terms, "Hold on to that, cherish it."
I can't even...
I can't remember what my mom looks like, my friends from way back when. In fact, I recreate them in my mind, but I think they're just imaginings. We didn't have, none of us had photographs. So the fact that you do, cherish it, which is sweet and sad.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was just, it was good. This is really good. So eventually the three that aren't kidnapped
Well,
get...
they figure something out because...
Yeah, I was going to say,
they
I'm trying not to spoil it.
Yeah, no, well, we got to spoil it. This isn't spoiling. This is talking about what goes on. It is pointed out because they're in a cave, and you have to understand, Booker was in Napoleon's army, and he is by far the youngest.
by thousands of years.
Well,
A thousand
not
years.
thousands of the other two, but
1,000 maybe for
a thousand.
the Crusades.
Yeah, I know. I'm not thousands of years for,
Yeah.
but I mean they're all thousands of years younger than Andy, because
Right.
she is just trucking along. But he is on a computer in a cave, and he finds Copley. And when they go to capture him, it's Niall, right?
Now.
Niall says to Andromaca, Andy, Wi-Fi doesn't work in a cave. He had no way to do that. Do you not understand? And she's like, I don't understand. None of us know how to work any of this crap. He's the only one that knows how to do anything. Well, that doesn't work. So he betrayed us. They realize that, but then they demand, and it's because he wants to die. His whole point of this was that they were going to take them and they'll figure out a way to kill them, and then he can die, because he had a horrible time with his family, including his son who had cancer, who was blaming him because he would not share his immortality with him as an old man. And it was sad.
Incredibly sad, and they make very clear in this that they have absolutely no clue why they have either been gifted or cursed,
Yes.
depending on how you look at it, with this immortality, seeming semi-immortality, whatever. And in fact, the scientist, in the time that they are getting poked and prodded and experimented on, comes to the douchebag billionaire and says, I've run every test I know to do. They're just really healthy guys.
They're people. They're nothing is, I cannot find anything that differentiates them from anyone else.
Yeah.
And the billionaire does not like that. So
and then right about then, I think, is maybe when the three of them,
after discovering that he did it, they say, well, you have to rescue it, and they're still going to work together. So they go up into this highly protected building, and then there's just this battle through this building in areas. Now, here's the thing. This is what I was going to talk about. I read a review of the movie, and they were complaining about the Netflix movie, and they were saying, well, they really did this. You clearly, for the Netflix, this is this great thing, but they did it on the cheap. I mean, you had all of these battles, and they all took place in these hallways. They didn't go like in a movie where they go on everything and blah, blah. They were whining about this because it's just, and I watched the movie. It's great because they do this battle through the thing in these buildings. And there's a great fight in an airplane, and they do these confined fights, but they're complaining about this. And I think about it's this opposite, because Netflix did a really good job. Well, that was actually Marvel. Did a great job with the hallway scenes in Daredevil.
Right.
It's a good thing. The funny thing is, this comic book takes place in that. This is pure, what they did in the movie is pure from the source. Why they don't have these great fight giant set pieces. Well, they're also not superheroes. They're regular people that can't die. So you can't have a set superhero piece because they're going to die. That's all they can take all this punishment, but they can't fly. They don't shoot lasers out of their eyes or out of their dick. That was a callback.
God, you have a weird obsession with that.
Well, no,
my
that
friend.
was just a callback.
I know.
Sorry. So they go in, and it's great because they're doing the back and forth, and they're fighting their way through this building.
Well, and real fast before that, when they get to Copley and they realize that Booker betrayed him, and they make at least a semi truce with Booker because he, what are you going to do to him? You can't kill him.
That's right.
And he agrees to help him. They're pinned down because there's a ton of people they're going to have to fight their way through, and so they're looking out a full glass wall window. That's it's a huge skyscraper in Dubai or something.
Yes.
I think
they're in Dubai.
So Andy just shoots out the window, and they jump. Gosh
well,
knows
she
how.
tells her, we've done this. No, don't worry about it. Wait,
I've done this before.
I've done this before.
Well, guess what? When they get hurt, it hurts. When they are injured, it hurts. They jump, and they're just like moaning and groaning as they're coalescing on a car and on the pavement where they splattered. I just thought that was kind of interesting and fun. Or like,
well, I liked the comment when she said, "I can't believe you've done this before," and he goes, "I've never done this before."
Yeah, you kidding? There weren't skyscrapers.
There hasn't been skyscrapers that long.
Yeah. What are you thinking? Oh, and then they go into the building and fight their way through all the
Yes.
way.
But
It.
while
Yeah.
they're doing that, in the room with so that's going on and you can hear it. And it's going crazy. And in the room with the scientist, the two guys are strapped to the table. And they start talking to the scientist, saying, "Hey, our friends are coming. This can go hard for you. They're going to get here. You know we can't be killed. So they're going to win this. Wouldn't it be a good idea for you to save us and let us go?" So the dumbass scientist, instead of running the fuck away, saves them. And I loved what they did because they then promptly killed him. Because, I mean, you only did that to save you. You're not that good. They had a conversation with him about that. They're like, you did this to save your own life. So they killed him pretty quick. But so when the door opens to rescue them, they're standing there ready to go.
You're like, what took you so long?
Well, if we'd have known you'd have gotten out on your own, we wouldn't have come.
Right. And of course, they eventually fight their way through to the douchebag billionaire, and there's not a bunch of monologuing
No,
on that. They just dispose of him.
as
Kill
you
him.
should.
Yeah. And then the real heavy stuff at the very end happens where they got to deal with what Booker did. And really cool. I took a screenshot of that.
I saw.
And really, really pretty art where they're sitting on the bank of a river. Maybe Paris? I don't know where they are.
Yes,
Or
Paris.
Dubai. Paris?
I think it's
Okay.
Paris. I think it's Paris.
And it just, I'm not going to quote it exactly, but just kind of like, look, Andy's talking to Booker saying, if I could kill you, I would have. I know. I'll see you in 100 years on this day.
You come
That's
back
your-
here
that's your
100
punishment.
years from now.
And so he's exiled from the group, which, yeah, I mean, I
That's
said,
a pretty harsh punishment.
I said that's fair, but my question is, I guess I'm curious if they ever explore, and I know there's another volume or two. What if they cut off his head? Like, does he grow back a head? Like, I have all these comic book fanboy questions.
Did you see him with his head blown off? So
I
the answer is
understand.
no.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know. It's just weird. It's cool, but weird.
They recover from anything until they don't. I know
Yeah.
you want to try to chop him up into 100 pieces and see.
Will
I know
100 of him grow back out of each piece?
You are a monster,
I
Mr.
know.
Gonzalez. You are a monster.
I would probably go evil scientist. I probably would. Like, let's chop off his head, leave it intact, and let's see if his body grows back a head, and if his head grows back a body, and we get two of them.
Well, based on that, there's two Deadpools running around in Deadpool world because he got ripped in half, and
That's
they took
true.
the top half, and then the other half is an evil Deadpool.
There you go.
They actually did an arc on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did a thing like that in a Deadpool comic, I believe,
Huh.
because of
Well-
sick fucking twisted fans like you.
I am a little weird sometimes in my thought processes. Really cool ending, and again, making me want to read a little more, which I came to find out, like, at least on Hoopla, and then looking at something online, not a bunch of Old Guard stuff
No,
out there,
no,
which, kind of surprising.
no. There's two volumes, and then there seems to be the one that I accidentally told you. Yeah, that's the one to read.
Which I read a little bit of before I was like, I think this is the wrong one.
Yeah,
I was picking up on what was going on, and
Yeah.
enough to say, let me go back and look.
Yeah, I haven't read that one. I read the second volume, I think, of Old Guard because I watched this. I read this originally, then I watched the movie, and then I think I picked up the second volume on Hoopla, and I'm not 100% sure if I remember it. No, there's definitely some differences in the movie, and you should watch it.
I will. I definitely
Some
will.
I liked, some I didn't, but I did find it amusing that they were complaining about why there's just all these fights in the doorway, and they could have. It's just because of budget, and they don't give them the big budget, so they did this, and I'm like, that's the comic book, there, buddy. They stuck
Yeah.
to the comic book.
Which kind of shows that the critics maybe didn't read the source material.
Oh yeah,
Surprise, surprise.
a lot. Yeah, I think that happens quite often.
Yeah. How do you say Andy's name again? Say it one more time for me.
I don't know. I've been saying Andromica, but I
Andromica?
may be
That's-
completely wrong because I haven't looked at it recently. I may be doing a completely wrong name. So
Okay.
But
Oh,
yeah,
and
she
then
goes
just
by
so you
Andy.
know, I did write down her friend's name. The friend that you were talking about at the beginning, that's now passed away or dead. The semi-immortal was Wei or Wei? W-E-I.
Yeah, and
That's
as I
who it
said,
was.
she's not important at all.
Okay, I get you. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
because
So
yeah,
go
she
ahead.
she never came back up from the water, so she's clearly dead. Because I mean, you never saw the body. You never. Oh, sorry.
Right. No, I got you. I'm just gonna put it out
My
of my mind. I'm
my
not even
my,
thinking
my
about it anymore.
nephew asking me, did they die? Did we see the body? When he was younger, when we were watching a movie or a TV show, are they dead? Have we seen a body? Hey, are they standing over him in a morgue? So we don't know yet. Well, when will we know? When the writers decide.
Well, I think we can spoil it. I know the one that I immediately thought of you telling me about that about which is true is Eternals. When just to spoil that for everybody that hasn't seen it, since this is going to drop sometime in March or April of 2022. Icarus flies into the sun. Ha ha, you get it? But you don't see him die. You don't see a body.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I'm thinking it's not the end of Icarus in the old MCU.
Oh, heavens
Is
no.
is my takeaway, and just I know we're going to eventually hopefully do a movie centric or focused special episode, but I think I tweeted or texted you and Caesar. I just liked that the MCU got to a Superman versus Wonder Woman fight on the big screen before DC did in Warner Brothers, because that's what happened in Eternals, which was awesome.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
So
I enjoyed that. Now, I really do think I need to watch Eternals again.
okay, so that weird tangent, but no, hey, thank you for suggesting Old Guard. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, to the point where, much like your last recommendation, She-Hulk, was it She-Hulk your last
yes.
one? I finished that this last go around because I had to find out what the blue file was, and I'm going to read more of Old Guard as well.
Excellent. I'm glad you liked it. I think lots of people would like it. Clearly, people liked it well enough to make a movie out of it. So,
Right?
but in fairness, that doesn't always, because they've made some movies out of shit that I'm like, what the what
Out of all the
what?
things to pick from,
Why? What is wrong with you people?
and somehow Detective Chimp can't get on the big screen or small
I'm
screen.
telling you, it's just
What the heck?
It's just unfair. It is.
Oh,
It
and
is legitimately unfair.
speaking of She-Hulk and my weird fandom of anything primate in comic books, I want to see more of Angie and her
And her
weird monkey.
capuchin monkey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I want a solo on that.
I really liked in the second arc of that She-Hulk the whole Captain America part, because
Oh, God, that was great.
it really teased. And remember, in the first arc, they teased it because you mentioned that I didn't know that they'd never faced each other in court
Yeah.
or worked on a case together, and then bang! I mean, like, come on, that is clearly foreshadowing.
I know. It was awesome.
No,
That-
I really liked that. That was a fun finish to the arc. So
Hey,
go ahead.
before we leave Old Guard, just I did jot down a couple things because talking about these guys and girls, the men and women, our heroes, if you will, being immortal, semi-immortal, it made me think of all sorts of other stuff where that's a big the thing in it. We talked about Man of Earth just the other day, that Netflix movie I watched where the guy doesn't age and goes back to the prehistory and is leaving his friends as a professor. I still think that's a cool movie. Or Last Man on Earth, I think is what it's called. Something like that. Either Man of Earth or Last Man on Earth is that movie. There's also a Thor panel that somebody tweeted out the other day where Thor, and it's a pretty recent comic book, I feel like, and I have no idea, and I asked, and I don't think they ever told me what issue it was in, where Thor's talking to Cap, I think, about one of their early interactions, and Thor's telling him in no uncertain terms something like, you got to realize years for me are like seconds, and I don't remember stuff from, what's important to y'all and sticks out, I may not remember, which was interesting.
Yeah.
You mentioned Christian Powers from Powers, not remembering stuff, which also just made me think
Christian Walker. Powers is not his last name.
That's funny. Sorry. Christian Walker in Powers. Which also made me just think about, hey, man, just getting a little older, us being firmly in our mid to late 40s. Look, there's stuff that I swear I used to be able to remember beat for beat.
Yeah.
Or what did my aunt and uncle in Mexico look like when I used to visit them as a kid, and sometimes that's kind of more hazy. It's just that was an interesting thing to start thinking about. Just stuff when you get older, much less when you're thousands of years old, you're not going to remember stuff from when you were a kiddo.
Yeah, I have some memories that are only still with me because I remember remembering them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's some like from like when I was really little, I have a couple of memories that what I really remember is remembering them at a later date. And
Yeah.
so,
The only other thing that this also made me think of, there was a Epix Comics in the mid to late 80s, which was a label for Marvel, which is where creator-owned stuff could go and more mature content could go. They did a thing called the Shadowline Saga, which was Marvel's first kind of foray into a own little universe. This predates New Universe. Also very adult oriented. And there was a grace of immortals in that only started aging when they had offspring,
oh,
which was an interesting take. And there were a few titles. I also remember it because Bill Sienkiewicz, a great comic book artist that does beautiful painted and mixed media art in comics, he did the covers for them. And those titles, just so in case anybody's interested in looking this stuff up, was Powerline, St. George, and yes, that's St. George, and Dr. Zero, the Shadowline Saga, Epic Comics, which the immortality thing made me think of that. And then the last one is Highlander. There can only be one. Which made me think.
see,
of that
that's
too.
why
So
you wanted to chop off their heads.
maybe that's where I got that from. Let's if we chop off their head, will I get their powers? Highlander. There can be only one. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to mention those. One more. Death Becomes Her, the
Death
movie
Becomes
with
Her.
Goldie Hawn
Oh,
and
dear
Meryl
Lord.
Streep and Bruce Willis. Another where they take the elixir, and yeah, made me think of that movie too.
Welcome to the very special segment brought to you by the Public Library of Hav Lists Things. Hav Lists Things.
It made me
Brought to
think
you
of
by the
those
Public
stuff.
No, I know. I'm just.
It made me. I just wanted to mention it since that's where my brain went.
It's all right.
But yeah, very to bring it back, very cool comic book. Glad we read it.
I'm glad you liked it. I liked it as well. So let's do something that's very important on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And let's discuss what we're going to read next.
Yeah, I think it's about the time in the old podcast. Before we do that, I just want to mention I don't think you did the episodes issue thing this podcast, which I just want to say me and Chicken are very proud of you. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Do you want me to go first? Because I've
Sure.
put some thought into this darn thing.
Oh, okay.
I went round and round, and
Right round like a record player. Right round, round, round. Okay, go ahead. Come on.
Okay, please tell me that's going to be the cold open.
I doubt that.
So the reason I'm suggesting this is because of the sad news that we talked about, I think, in a previous podcast, which is all over comic book Twitter. George Perez, famous comic book creator, unfortunately stricken with, it's my understanding, inoperable pancreatic cancer. He's still with us, and it's going to be for a little while longer, but because of that, it made me start thinking about stuff that he's done. And then I selfishly, something I read a issue or two back when it came out, just because it was part of a thing that was going on in the DC universe. He was one of the big creators on the relaunch of Wonder Woman in the late 80s after Crisis on Infinite Earths. So, and that's on Hoopla, the Wonder Woman essentially relaunch. I think it's like 15 or 16 issues, but there's a 6-issue arc that does it.
Okay.
And that's part of that's going to be my suggestion.
Okay.
And I think
Wonder
also
Woman.
exactly. Oh, I loved the Wonder Woman Linda Carter TV show when I was a kid. I want to say, and I didn't do a huge deep dive on it yet. I want to say he either co-wrote it or co-plotted it along with doing the art in it. So Wonder Woman, it's on Hoopla. I'll shoot you a screenshot just in case there's any confusion. But yeah.
Excellent. That's cool. You put a lot of thought in that. I put almost no thought into what I'm going to suggest. I was scrounging around today, and I was like, I know what I want to read, and I went searching for it on Hoopla, and it's not there. So I found something else while I was doing that. Well, then I went to Marvel Unlimited to look at some stuff, and we could have done it because you can access that. But I decided instead to do something else. So what I was thinking about doing is I was thinking Ultimate Spider-Man, except not the Peter Parker Ultimate Spider-Man. I wanted you to read maybe the origin of Miles Morales. And that's not on Hoopla, which irritates me. We could read Ultimate Spider-Man, the first arc of that, which would be great, and we may do that at some point. But I've decided to go a different way because what is on Hoopla is Spider-Men, which is the crossover with 616 Peter Parker into the Ultimate Universe with Miles Morales. It was written by Brian Michael Bendis, and it is quite excellent. And
Cool.
we can read that, and then we can do a little discussion about some of the stuff that came up in the Spider-Verse movie, because
Nice.
there's definitely some stuff in there about stuff that's the thing and the thing that is the stuff. So it was definitely, I think you'll enjoy it. I'll shoot that to you, but it's literally called Spider-Men.
And it's on Hoopla, you said.
And it's on Hoopla. Yeah, there's like 3 different things, but there's another one. There's Spider-Man 2, and there's 3, because there's Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and then there's a Spider-Man that has all of them put together. But we'll just do the first Spider-Man, because that gets into a whole... The Spider-Man 2 is an arc they did after Miles Morales, as you know, ends up in the 616 after Secret Wars. Well, what they called Secret Wars 2, which was technically Secret Wars 3, because, well, I mean, it was.
Yeah, you're right.
It was. I'm not even being nerd pedantic. There was a Secret Wars 2 not that long after Secret Wars. So
Right. In the 80s. You're talking about the 80s?
I'm talking about the 80s. Yeah, there were 2 Secret Wars in the 80s, so you can't...
Yeah. Well, and I think it's cool that you're doing more Spider-Man stuff. You know what? I haven't thought about it. I need, as opposed to he's my favorite. Your favorite super, there's not a bunch of solo Cyclops stuff out there.
No, there's really not. There's really not.
So I'm going to put some thought into maybe an arc that's more from Uncanny or X Factor.
Okay.
That's more Scott Summers Cyclops centric, which a lot of them are, I know. But yeah, we'll see. That may be something to. I'll think about that. But I'm excited.
I've legitimately considered suggesting some stuff with him in it that is mildly centric from the more modern times where I actually like him. I've had a lot of fun teasing you and Caesar about that, but there's some good stuff with Cyclops. Not in the era that you read, but now.
Well, with any comic book character like that with such long, torrid history,
yes,
that he has, where he's done some stuff.
I have not suggested we read any Spider-Man from the 80s.
Because that's my thing. 80s is, hey, stay in your lane, bro. If there's going to be a suggestion of some Spider-Man from the 80s, there is an arc when I was picking up stuff, Ron Frenz and Tom DeFalco, artist and writer, there was a cool run back then that I thoroughly enjoyed, that I know I have in a long box or short box somewhere, that I remember fondly, and that is one that I'm wondering whether or not it holds up, and maybe so we got some stuff. We got ideas for future stuff.
Well, you do.
I do. Sorry. You do.
I'm off the cuffing. Well, sometimes this time I just didn't plan ahead. I don't know why. We had a whole week.
But yeah, cool. I'm excited about Spider-Man, and I'm excited because like I said, I think I read like 1 or 2 issues of this, and it might have been after the intro arc that I read some of this Wonder Woman run by George Perez and whoever else helped him out on it, which I don't know. So there's that. Hey, anything else for this go round? No,
I think you did an admirable job. I'm proud of you. You got through another podcast.
Yay! Hey, Charles, thanks for doing the podcast with me.
Thank you for doing it with me. So
and
yes, thank you to everyone listening at home. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yay! Bye.
Bye.